Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are, everybody here. Thanks for being here. Hey, Philip and Alex, thanks for being here. I appreciate it, everybody. Philip, yeah, you got an addiction, man. We're gonna have to come up with a Baldur's Gate anonymous group here. Hey, Except, thanks for being here. Yeah, it's always amazing to see everybody from all over the world tuning in. It's really amazing to see. Philip, you went and recruited Karlach before you went to the Druid's Grove? Yeah, no, certainly a bunch of different ways to do it. To go about it, so... I went and recruited Karlach, yeah, like you said in the Bard video, and we won't be doing that today, but the Karlach encounter will be playing a little bit differently on the Paladin playthrough. So I expect, let's see, we're gonna confront Kagha today, we're gonna be in the Blighted Village today. I expect that next week we'll be finishing up the Whispering Depths and finishing the Blighted Village. And then maybe episode 7, we might be up into the Risen Road. Yeah, there are, and that's some of the encounters. For everybody who doesn't know, the big reason for the change in Will's voice from the early access to the full version was because they completely rewrote Will's storyline when they introduced Karlach as a companion or origin character. Remember, his previous storyline was all about the Goblin camp and that sort of stuff. Now he doesn't care about the Goblin camp at all. It's all about Karlach's interaction and his interaction with his patron and that sort of stuff. I'm not going to get into any spoilers, but they had to completely redo all that voice acting and had to get a different actor to do it, so... Joshua, have I beat the game on my personal playthrough? Oh, no. I am in the Underdark right now on my personal playthrough, and I'm about to enter the Grimforge area. I'm about to take the skiff across the water to deal with the Dwergar encampment. So I have not entered Act 2 yet in my personal playthrough. I mean, it's kind of hard to envision. I mean, in my old days, I would have played this game hour after hour nonstop until I finished it, and would probably have taken around 150 hours or so to finish it. But here, I've got 3 different Baldur's Gate 3 playthroughs going, and then I've got 2 different Starfield playthroughs going, all at the same time. And all I have is my weekends and some evenings after work during the week, so my progression is going to be a little slow, but I also don't want to get too far ahead of my streams with my personal playthrough, because I want those actions to be fresh in my head. So if I played it a certain way in my personal playthrough that I would like to do on stream, then I'll remember what I did and how I did it. Oh, Philip, so they changed the interaction. I noticed that once previously with the ogres, with Lump, and how in the past they would never climb up to the roof, but they actually started using the exterior pathway to climb up there. Now, the roof in the Blighted Village, you have to jump to get over to, so I'm assuming they climbed up on the side and jumped across. The new pathing that they implemented in the full version of the game, going after your casters type of thing and really, you know, prioritizing them and that sort of stuff, has really changed how a lot of that is working. So it doesn't surprise me that they changed some of the combat mechanics and the ways that the enemies are going to go about doing that. Hey Henry, hey Peter, hey Eric, thanks for being here, everybody. I appreciate it. Oh yeah, Eric, have fun. Yeah, I wish I could get back to that. I just simply don't have the time right now to do it. It was always a lot of fun. But good luck, and may the dice rolls be ever in your favor. I can't wait for the holiday here in the United States tomorrow. There's so much stuff I need to get corrected here on streaming and everything else. It was a big change having to stream 2 different games at the same time, or during the same week or the same day, like I did yesterday. Copying over new setups, getting resolutions and frame rate set and all that sort of stuff has been a headache, and I've noticed some stuff that I did wrong since the 2 streams yesterday, so I'm going to spend tomorrow really just troubleshooting stuff and making sure I've got streams working correctly like they should and all of that sort of stuff. So I'm glad there haven't been any major issues with the streams, especially yesterday when it was a bunch of last minute configurations of stuff that I didn't expect. So but I checked the videos yesterday when I was doing my chapter markers, and the videos seem to have gone through okay onto YouTube, so I'm hoping that means the streams went okay. Yeah, it has been a busy launch weekend, so and if that's the case, hopefully that's been corrected today. What happened was the Baldur's Gate I play at 4K, 60 hertz or 60 FPS. That's what my monitor is displaying. That's what I play at. However, I don't have the internet to be able to stream that. I can't stream 25 or 42 megabytes per second. So what I did is when I started up the Starfield video, I was playing at 4K, but when I'd copied the settings over to a new scene inside OBS, it didn't look the same. And somehow my 4K settings for the video and frame rate got put into OBS. So it was trying to send out a higher resolution stream than what I had set into YouTube as what the stream was going to be. I normally stream at 1080p 60 frames a second. And I noticed there was a warning that popped up about halfway through it about a recommended bit rate So I went and checked my settings, and I checked the streaming settings, and they looked fine, but what I didn't check was the video input settings. So I think I've got everything resized and rescaled today for this stream, so I hope there isn't any issues today. I haven't noticed any dropped frame rates yet, or dropped frames yet out of OBS. And looks like YouTube is still saying that I've got a good or excellent connection here on the stream, so hopefully it's working out. Hey Jose, welcome to the stream. I appreciate you being here. They saw the other videos. Am I going to go back and finish the story with your other character now that the full game is out? No, the previous live stream, so the Ranger, the Barbarian, and that was it, right? Now I can't even remember how many of my own streams I had. The early access games, the save files are not compatible. So, and the Druid gameplay, that's the other one. The save files are not compatible with the full version. So I can't go back and reload those saves in the full version and continue those stories. That's why what happened with the Bard gameplay is I was 4 episodes in, I believe, on the Bard gameplay in early access. So I just went back, and when the full version came out, I replayed those 4 episodes off stream in the full version to get the Bard back to where it was when it left off. So I don't want to have to go back and replay the entire Act 1 for all of those characters just to get them back to where this is. Hey Big Lou, thanks for being here. Sometimes when you load the game, the continue button does not show up. You mean it doesn't highlight, or it doesn't appear at all? I assume you mean, well, I'm not sure. I've never seen it not pop up, so I don't know if it dims out and just doesn't allow you to click it, or if it just doesn't appear at all. The only way that what the continue button does is loads the last save file that is in your save file list. So if something happens, it's not there at all and I need to reload. No, I've never run into that. The only time it's not been there for me is when I'm trying to start like on the full version came out, I needed to start a new game. And there wasn't a previous save file there to be loaded. What I have to do with mine, since I'm playing multiple different playthroughs, is I have to get the continue button to work. Like my personal playthrough, I'll save, then I'll quit the game. If I start up the next one and I click continue, it's going to take me to my personal playthrough and not the stream playthrough. So I have to open up my previous save game. I have to save over it to get it to be the most current save file, and then the continue button works. No, Jose, I haven't. Before you got here, I mentioned I'm only I'm about 3 hours from the end of Act 1. I'm getting ready to go to the Grimforge area. I'm trying not to get too far ahead on my personal playthrough, so all the decisions I make are still fresh in my head and that sort of stuff. Besides, I don't tend to rush through. I'm more of a completionist type. Yeah, we'll be experiencing the new content and the new acts almost together with each other as we go. All right, well, I think we're going to go ahead and get started here. Welcome everyone to today's live stream, which is episode 5 of our Baldur's Gate 3 Paladin gameplay series. I'm Commander Jorval, and I want to thank you for coming along on our journey today. So, on some admin notes, I want to apologize for anybody who was on the streams for yesterday. It appears the videos have come through okay onto YouTube. But for anybody who was here yesterday on the streams and you might have experienced some stream issues with video quality or buffering or things like that, having two different games that I am streaming at the same time kind of played some havoc with the settings inside my streaming software, and it took me a while to get it sorted out, and I was actually just doing some final sorting out of that this morning in preparation for this stream. So I hope I've gotten things set back to the way they were and everything is running smoothly. I'm going to monitor the dropped frames and the stream settings from inside YouTube. Hopefully make sure we don't get any more buffering or anything like that happening, but if you do end up having issues with the stream or anything, please leave me a comment and let me know. And if there's something that I can adjust while the stream is still going, then I certainly will. I'm going to spend the holiday here tomorrow in the US going through all of my settings for both games and making sure that I've got things squared away and going as well as they can. Like I said, you guys deserve to be able to not have to deal with buffering or anything like that, so. From another admin note, what I mentioned yesterday for Baldur's Gate 3 is if you haven't heard, patch number 2 is out, and Larian is just being an amazing developer right now. And they are putting out hot fixes, massive patches, and everything else for their game on an amazingly quick basis. I've never seen anything like this for a game this size. They are really setting the bar high here for AAA developers, since Larian is not. It's amazing that they can do that with this game and other developers can't. But patch number 2 is out. The patch notes went up earlier this week. Feel free to go look through them. They made a lot of major changes as far as cutscene cinematics go, as well as some game issues and things that were going wrong that they fixed. So a lot of stuff across all 3 acts, so feel free to go check those out and see if anything's going to be affecting what you're about to play or what you've already played in your games. So I think that's it for the admin notes. So we'll go into our recap. So what we did, where we left off at the end of last live stream, was we had completed the combat in the Broken Grove, which was the area with the cut down tree and the woodwoads and the mephits. We had finished our combat there, we had picked up the evidence against Kagha, and then we had gone over and kind of stopped at an old campsite. And today we are going to head back up to the Druid's Grove, and we're going to try and confront Kagha and kind of lessen some of the tensions up there if we can. There's a few ways that scenario can go. I think we've got a good chance of having it play out like we want, though. And then after that's done, we are going to head over toward the Blighted Village and start clearing out as much of that as we can. And we're going to clear out all of the above ground sections first. And then, in a little bit of a change, we're going to head into the Whispering Depths first before we head into the Necromancer's lair underground. So we won't get to that today. The amount of content we have to get through today is going to be more than the stream, but that's kind of the plan over the next couple of episodes. So we'll go ahead and get started here. Big Lou, yeah, you don't have to pick up the quest to go fight in that location. If you just wander over there, the combat's going to be there waiting for you. And then if you walk up to the tree, you will notice that there's a crevice in the tree, and once you loot it, you're going to see that same note that we picked up, and it will trigger the Confront Kagha quest the same way. You just won't have gone through the Investigate Kagha portion of the quest by looking at the chest. So here we go, right where we left off. We'll check our map here real quick, and you see what we've done, and that we cleared out this area down here, we did go in and confront Auntie Ethel just to knock her, or to finish that portion and kill the red caps here. The brothers' bodies were not showing up here because remember, we knocked them out way back up here at the entrance to this area. So we're going to head back that way on foot. Once we get past that area, we'll see if they're still there or not. And then after that, we will fast travel back to the Emerald Grove and confront Kagha. So let's go ahead and do that. And remember, like we've always been dealing with here in the swamp, we're going to take it a little easy making our way back because we don't want to get caught in these traps that are here. So I'm going to walk up, I'm going to split my group, and I'm going to walk everybody through here,
whatever it takes.
kind of one at a time.
We must keep going.
You can see they're all failing to perceive that trap in there, but I'm not trying to actually perceive it. I'm just getting them to walk down the center of these pathways like Gale was about to walk through the water again.
Still breathing, despite everything. These boots have seen
Okay. So here is where the brothers were. You can see where we had the combat where I knocked them unconscious. Their bodies were not back here in the red cap area. So as far as we're concerned, the brothers survived. We don't know that they did one way or another, but every other option that you can select with them is going to either have them die or implicate that they're dead. You can have a conversation where they agree to let you go find her, but then when you talk to Auntie Ethel inside, she will say that the brothers are at a farm and they are safe. But once you get farther through the Auntie Ethel questline and you get in to read some notes inside her lair, you will find out that that farm is not safe so much. So you'll know that she said that they're there, so they are probably dead. You just don't ever see their bodies. So here we don't know one way or another, so we're just gonna play to the fact that they're alive. So we're gonna head back to the Emerald Grove. No, Philip, not as far as I'm aware. The brothers are always going to be there. It's not like the Joaquin's Rest questlines. Once you load it, they're always going to still be there waiting for you to talk to them, or one way or another. If you skip past it and you enter the grove another way, or enter the swamp another way, actually, I don't know if there is another way to enter the swamp, but if you did, I would imagine it would just skip past that. You'd probably find them dead anyway. But yeah, you can walk right by them, have them load in and everything, and it doesn't affect that quest line. So, except texture buffering is still present. I haven't had any dropped frames in the stream. And YouTube says everything is still okay. If anybody else is having any issues with buffering or anything like that in the stream, let me know, and I'll see. And yeah, except if we have multiple people reporting it, then I'll look into some more of it and see. But yeah, I haven't dropped any frames out of my recording software yet. The bitrate still seems to be keeping where it should be, and YouTube still says I'm okay. So, but I'll keep an eye on it. Okay, so we're gonna head back in here. We do have some items that we can sell. So we're going to go down here and talk to Aaron as well.
Need anything else? Of course. But please, remember, you're not the only one in need.
Okay, so he doesn't have a whole lot of gold sitting there with him right now. So I doubt we'd be able to sell all of our wares anyway. But we can look and see if there's anything else that we want to pick up here. Okay, so they have the Hedge Wanderer armor in here now. This is basically medium armor that is hide armor. Gives you a nature +1 and a +1 bonus to dexterity saving throws and checks. We've known about the Gloves of Missile Snaring and the Ring of Flinging. The Spell Thief we also know about. We've got this in the Bard playthrough. It hasn't been all that useful though. It's too situational to be very useful. So let's look through and see. Yeah, we don't have any Scale Mail +1s or anything like that. Astarion just has his regular padded armor. We could up that by 1 for him. But let's go back and see if he's able to just sell all these wares or not. Like I say, I don't think he is. So let's go. We'll get Astarion an upgrade. 1 more on his armor class. And then for my Paladin, I think we're probably going to do the same thing. Sorry, I'm just thinking through my head here as we're going. Trying not to give you guys dead air or anything like that here, but just thinking while I'm going through this. Because, yeah, we don't have anything there. We don't have anything here. So the only question would be... Okay, so yes, because his dex is getting no bonuses, so we can get him just a straight upgrade by changing out to his...
Of course. But please, remember, you're not the only one in need.
To ring mail. We can actually... Yeah, we'll go ahead and do it. It's only 420. So let's go ahead and purchase this. Get him a straight upgrade on that and see if he's got enough money to sell our lore. Yeah, he does now, so... Now we're good. And nobody else has anything to sell, so... Okay.
Sylvanas be with you.
So now we will head down into the Emerald Pool itself, and we'll talk to Kagha. As you... Wonder what that was. That check that happened back there. Oh, okay. So, I must not have walked past the strange ox. That is something we'll want to do. Do I have a potion of animal speaking? I don't know as if I do.
What a day. Elminster's not around, so
I don't.
All right. What now?
Let's talk to the strange ox anyway and see. Yeah, I need to speak with it. Let's see if we can get Gale in here for an Arcana check.
yes, of course.
Okay, so that'll work.
Something's off. This creature isn't what it appears to be.
Okay, so I don't have Speak with Animals to expand on that. If I can pick up a potion, I'll come back and do that. The Strange Ox is something that was added in the full version. and you're going to see more of that as you go through the other acts, actually. Not to get too spoilery, but you will be able to talk to the strange ox throughout your entire playthrough until you get down to the very end.
Seems simple enough.
Okay, so here we do have a couple of short rests left. What's our action economy look like? Okay, so my spells are out on the cleric side and on my wizard side. But honestly, I don't think, if this plays out like we expect it to play out, it's not going to matter. It really isn't. So if it doesn't play out the way we want, then I think we're still going to have enough action economy because I do have all of my smites available to me. So I think we're going to be okay one way or another. So looking at, sorry, not our reactions, but our journal. Here, we're at the Confront Kagha section of this quest. So we're going to go up and talk to her.
What's up for discussion?
Why are you here? I sent you to Zevlor. What? That damn nose of yours has gone poking in our business.
Mistress Olladin, I can explain.
Shh, shh. No need. It couldn't be helped.
Kagha, what is the meaning of this?
You think yourself quite the spy, don't you? Go on, tell him.
What in the cloakwood? Kagha, have you lost your mind?
Halsin is weak, Wrath. But in the shadows, we are strong. We are safe. There is no other way.
You and Halsin welcome untouchables to your midst. You defile the grove for the sake of harmony.
Olladin speaks truth. Who among you disagrees? Who would see this grove in ruin?
The choice is made. Kagha, burn the tainted away. Start with the snitch.
As you say, Olladin.
Okay, so you have some choices here on how you want to play this, and you can play this to allow a fight to take place for the Shadow Druids to take over the Grove. However, we're going to go with the Persuasion option here, and we have proficiency and a bonus from our Charisma to do it, because it is a higher DC. So with our Guidance, we now still have, at minimum, a 50-50 shot to be able to get this to pass. So we also have inspirations available to us, so if it fails, we can always retry it.
No. You don't know what you say. In shadow, we are purified.
Kagha's voice breaks and her lips tremble. She heard reason in your words.
Okay, so we do have some other options here. We're going to go with Persuasion again. And this one's lower. Well, there we go. We do have, that's what I get for saying this is lower. The D&D dice, heard me. So we have 4 inspirations, so we're gonna roll this again, obviously.
the darkest hour fell, it was us that brought light. Sylvanas demands we illuminate shadow, not hide within it. How was I so blind?
Careful, Kagha. The shadows don't forgive.
I belong to the shadows no longer. You've no power over me.
You would question my power. Mother Earth, hear me. Grant me your wrath.
Okay, so we didn't roll so good on initiative, but it doesn't really matter as much, like I say, because the entire grove is now arrayed against the three of them. Okay, so Gale's immobilized here, but again, doesn't really matter all that much. Yeah, he's going to have very low chance to hit because of being ensnared, but again, it doesn't really... We're not really caring about that much. So we can actually get one of our spell slots back as well. So we'll remember that next turn.
Let's have some courage.
So for Astarion, this whole entire area is going to be covered with detection cones. Not all of them are enemy detection cones, but here we should be able to get a sneak attack on Ren here. So we're going to move back just out of the detection cone here. Cunning action, hide, and we should be able to get a sneak attack on Ren. Okay. Okay, so now with Shadowheart, we do have a second level spell left, so we do have some options here. So 55%, 65% chance here. We want to try and take out one of these two. I'm going to try and take out Ren, since he's on the outside of the flames here. I'm going to try and take him out with my Paladin, so I'll focus on Oladan here with this Guiding Bolt. So now only 2 hit points left on her. And I probably should have cast Hunter's Mark first. That probably would have killed her. Okay, so here, looks like everything is cluttered up here. So the only way to get to him is to walk through the flames a little bit. But here, 65% chance to hit. Okay, so he's got 5 hit points left. I'm going to add a Divine Smite to that. And that's going to end that. And then from here, again, I don't think there's really a need for any of this. And we'll just jump back here and wait for his next turn to start. That was expected. Nothing really to worry about, though. I'll be able to get him back up.
Let's try to survive, hmm?
Okay, so Gale is back up.
A tale for the
So,
ages.
moving him out of the acid, getting him back out here, that, like I said, doesn't really matter. I'll be able to keep him alive. They're not able to cause enough damage to outright kill him. So, and then here, again, since I used my action to get him up, I can just dash and try and get Astarion far up here. Can't keep casting hold person on people with wisdom saves, like druids have. It's not going to work. So 9 hit points left on Pinta. We'll go after, see if we can remove Oladan's Cloud Shape. Couldn't, saved against it. Thank you. Appreciate that, Fendal. Okay, so for me here again, 65 points. I'm going to try and remove Pinta here entirely. Okay, that didn't work. So I'm going to have 1 Divine Smite left after this. So I'm just going to cast Shield of Faith on myself and go from there. Okay, that certainly helped avoid that. Yeah, I knew that he was going to go down. So now it's just a matter of trying to knock Oladan out of Wild Shape first. Just like that. And that opens her up to other attacks. So we should be able to just move in here. Oh, we can actually get 65% chance to do it here. Or a 60% chance there, so we'll do ranged instead. If it doesn't work... Yeah, if it doesn't work, we have another one. Actually, you know, we might as well... Well, he's still happy already, but it doesn't really matter. Let's just do it this way. Okay. So now I can use my action to see if we can kill Pinta, and he missed a 75%er. Roll to 5. Thank you. Easy enough. So another change that they made is that in the before patch number 1, the Shadow Druids used to be marked as steel for some weird reason. Loic he was not one of the Shadow Druids, but they've now redesignated these so that you're not trying to steal from them.
You won't find it here, whatever the Tree Father's judgment. I will accept it in full.
Let's have a look.
Okay, and now we can go over and talk to Kagha.
I want to have a word.
Wrath thought me a danger. Seems I've proven him right.
Hey, Ostamer, welcome to the stream. Happy to have you here from overseas. I appreciate you being here.
I was thinking I could make us safe. A foolish notion. To think we'd find comfort in shadow. I endangered a child. I betrayed the Sekul's trust. We will stop the right and I will stand trial. My fate lies with Sylvanus. May he have mercy. We will grant them safe harbor until they depart. Meanwhile, help us contend with the goblins. Perhaps we can dissuade them from attacking. It began with a letter. There was no messenger, it simply appeared. Oladan came soon after. An army was coming, she said. Goblins, drow, and more still. Legions upon legions. The Druids of Cloakwood knew the dangers this would bring. They ordained that all circles cast the right to shelter from the storm. Oladan taught me to harness the Tree Father's power to wall us in. In return, well, You know the rest. I would turn the grove over to them. I won't forget the wounds I've inflicted. I pray Halsin returns to heal them in full.
Okay, so we've lessened some tensions here in the grove. Everyone's now okay with the tieflings being here and staying, and Kagha is not dead. You can play this fight out, as Lord Henry mentioned. You can play this fight out a different way, in that Kagha, the 3 shadow druids, and 2 of the other druids down here will all side together in a fight against you and Wrath and Silver, and you can have that larger fight, but then you can loot Kagha afterward, and she has a weapon that you can pick up off of her. But yeah, for me, this is the much better way to play it out. I've done it both ways in my various playthroughs. You can go back, I think, to the Ranger playthrough and see that fight, how I played it through that way. But feel free to play it however you want, but that's the way I wanted to do it. So it would be careful with a paladin, especially a devotion paladin, whether or not convincing her to change sides breaks your oath or not, because paladins would instantly see that she's wrong. There's no hope for redemption for her. She needs to be punished for it, and it may break your oath. Just one more thing to think about when you're going through this. So we can also talk to Wrath now.
You have saved Kagha from herself. I cannot thank you enough.
Okay, so oh, thanks, I appreciate that, Ostamura, about the Starfield stream. Sorry it's going to be at a time coming up for the remainder of this year anyway. It's going to be in an inconvenient time for you to catch it live, but you can catch the videos as they go up, so I appreciate you watching it. And Rudy, thanks for being here from Sweden. I appreciate you showing up to the stream. Thank you very much. Okay, so now you can see that the right has stopped out here. There's no longer this orange dome around it. You can take the time to talk to the other druids who were involved with that. There's nothing really important that they're going to tell you as you go. And Tusk is here for... I can't really... Without getting into spoilers, I think I talked about this in one of my other streams about Tusk and why he might be named Tusk and that sort of stuff. But that has to do with a certain voice actor that plays, that they live streamed their tabletop game. That voice actor actually voices a character in the game here. It's a character you're not going to meet for a while, and it's a big spoiler, and I don't want to give it away, but you can talk to all of these animals down here if you have a potion of animal speaking, and learn more about the grove itself and that sort of stuff. So it's always good if you have a potion to be able to take it and talk to all the animals down here. I just do not have one at all, but I'll be able to pick one up before I finish this, and I'll come back here and do all the animal talking before I finish the goblin camp. So you can see that they brought, tieflings are now allowed to enter into the Emerald Pool area down here. So tensions have eased up quite a bit. So we're going to head back out here, and we can sell off a couple of things. So I'll go talk to Damon down here just to sell off these few items that I picked up in there from the Shadow Druids. And then we are definitely going to take a long rest.
Looking for steel? I have, well, something close.
And something that was brought up in the comments under one of my videos that I wanted to mention. When it comes to trading, I had mentioned previously to use your highest charisma skill character. And that is true in most situations. However, the attitude down here that the trader has with you can also influence prices. There's a lot. You can go to the forums and you can read all of the percentages on how much your charisma modifier impacts prices, as well as the attitude score here and how it influences prices. But you might have a high charisma character that has an extraordinarily low attitude with a certain trader, and that means that somebody else who has even a normal attitude and a lower charisma score might have better prices. So it's important, for the most part, when you're trading, you're going to be trading with 0 attitude. However, due to character choices that you make, playthrough choices that you make, that particular trader might have a negative attitude towards you because of those decisions. And that makes it important for you to watch that attitude when you're initiating your trading. Because that first person that you click on them with, that's what sets all of the prices. It's not like early access where every character you could click on them and the prices would differ. Here, the Mace +1 is 84, and it's still 84 no matter which character I click on, even though they all have the same attitude but different charismas. And that's because the first person that I clicked on him with sets those prices. So if your high charisma character has a low attitude with a trader, you may want to change to somebody else to look at it. So the charisma has, and I don't remember the exact numbers off the top of my head because there's a whole spreadsheet on the forums about it. But I believe that charisma has, for every modifier, it's a 10% difference in prices. So right now, if I have a +3 modifier, I'm getting a 30% discount on it. Your attitude, for every 33 negative in attitude, from 0 to -100 or 0 to 100, each one of those adds in, I can't remember it. Like I say, the numbers here are just guesses. You'll have to go to the forum to look at the exact numbers. But if it's 10% for each point in charisma, then I think it's like 5 points or maybe 10 points for every 33 in attitude, one way or the other. So if I had a +3 charisma modifier but I have a -100 attitude, then those two would equal each other out and I wouldn't get a bonus or a negative on your prices. So attitude also plays into your prices, not just your charisma modifier. Just keep that in mind, that you need to pay attention to this as well. So I have a couple of viewers who have very negative, possibly very negative influence on their character in a trade situation, and another character actually has better prices that has a much better attitude with them. So just be careful when you're looking at those things and going through your playthroughs. So one thing I'm going to do here is pick up a couple of things, and I'm just going to pick up some weapons here and a shield for my paladin. I want my paladin, well, first let's sell off these items. Actually, let's go ahead and we're just going to give him all of those items. So it's 97 gold worth. If I click barter here, it says you won't receive any gold from this trade. You're sure you wish to proceed. You say yes, and you see what happened to his attitude. It's now 16. So that Mace +1 that was 84 is now 81. Okay, so you can see that the attitude impacts those prices, not just your charisma score. So if you want to up the attitude just through trading, because sometimes you can complete quests for the individual or things like that that may give you better prices, like you saw with the Zentrum in the Zentrum hideout. But if you just want to influence it through trading, then you go to barter and you just donate items to them, basically. And that will improve their attitude towards you and give you better prices on any of the particular things that are there. Now, again, that is set on your first person here that clicks on them. So that attitude is set with the charisma score, and the attitude here for this person is going to be getting the benefit from it. But anybody can now click on that same thing and get it for that same price. Okay. So just something important is not just charisma. So just keep that in mind as you're going through and looking at it. So let me look and see what we have here for the rest of this. I do have a light crossbow. Gale is proficient in those. So I am going to get him. Actually, I want to trade that instead. And we'll give Gale a ranged attack. So here, I do want to, like I said, I do want to get a sword and board type weapon, so to speak, for him, and it's still the 15 armor class. That's the best, yes. So I'm just going to pick up this mace +1 just to give him something in the background, so if we get into an armor class situation where we want to up his armor class even more, he has a sword and board option basically to be able to do. And that's the only reason for it. We're going to be changing him. Right now the Everburn Blade is the best option for him. But remember, with the choices that I made, I want him to use a sword and shield, ultimately. Right now, there's no weapons that I can get that really overpower the Everburn Blade as far as it works, and the enemies aren't going to be able to one-shot me for the most part. But there are times when I'm going to want to equip that shield also, so I need to have it. Okay, so we are done in here, so we're going to head back out to the Emerald Grove environments, and we're going to take our long rest. Yeah, Lord Henry, I can't remember what the numbers are exactly. It's that a lot of people have done a lot of work with those to check the percentages, and I'm pretty sure that it's 10% for every charisma score increase, but the attitude I can't remember. But yeah, it's from 0 to 100. There's a scale there that tells you exactly what your discounts are going to be. So. Okay, so from here, we're just going to go and take our long rest. And we'll check around like we normally do, and we'll have our conversations.
Almost pleasant traveling with company, if you ignore all the less pleasant aspects. Fine. What's on your mind?
I don't think I've ever had a confidant quite like you. And if I have, I can't remember them.
Okay, so nothing new from Shadowheart. I don't think we're going to have a whole lot new in our conversations here. But we always want to go check them every time you go to camp.
Yes.
Oh yeah, forgot. We've got the vampire revelation with Astarion that we had previously.
Why do you insist on exhuming the past? I was a slave. A vampire spawn. Kept by the Tsar family. Perhaps I still am. I was never able to resist their commands, but now I've been conveniently lost. They won't ever control me again. It's simple. Just find a vampire that will drink your blood and turn you into a vampire spawn. Their obedient puppet. In theory, the next step is to drink their blood. Once you've done that, you're free and a true vampire. People think the biggest threat to a vampire is a cleric with a stake. It's not. The biggest threat to a vampire is another vampire. They're scheming, paranoid, power-hungry beasts. So why would any vampire give up control over a spawn to create a competitor? Trust me, it doesn't happen. We can't. And yet I crossed the threshold like moonlight through leaves. This worm is a powerful little beast, isn't it? What's not to enjoy? I can walk in sunlight, trespass upon any home, manipulate minds. I'm the most powerful vampire in the realms. Granted, the looming doom is an issue, but why not enjoy the benefits while we can? He was, but now he's not. Which is all that matters, really. Oh, there'll be others. I'm sure of that. If Cazador sent one peon after me, he'll send another. Cazador Zar is a vampire lord in Baldur's Gate. The patriarch of his coven, and a monster obsessed with power. He turned me nearly 200 years ago. I became his spawn, and he became my tormentor. It was him, I'm sure. Only he would know to send the Gur after me. It was a group of Gur that attacked me that night in Baldur's Gate. I would have died had Cazador not appeared and saved me. Perhaps. He probably thought it was funny. But more likely, he's trying to send me a message. He's reminding me of his power. Even in the middle of nowhere, he can reach me. And he wants me back. Maybe he wants to make an example of me, to show what happens to runaways. Or maybe he thinks death is too good for me. Concerned? Do you know the power a vampire lord possesses? He can change shape, turn into mist, call walls to do his bidding, shrug off blows like they're nothing. He could walk into our camp tonight and kill you with his bare hands. And you'd be lucky if death was the worst thing that happened to you.
Well, he's right about that at our current level 4 compared to what Cazador is in Baldur's Gate 3. Or in Baldur's Gate the city, so no spoilers though.
First, we have to... I don't know. Well, if we kill his lackeys, he'll just send more. We just have to be vigilant, keep our wits about us, and kill any monster hunters on sight. I won't lie. It's tempting. If I keep the tadpole, I risk transforming into a grotesque monster. If I lose the tadpole, Cazador has control of me, body and soul, and I return to the shadows. It's grim either way. So why not sell what's left of my soul to a devil? Better he has it than Cazador. I'm glad to hear it. Whatever's coming, we need to keep our options open. I've already apologized. What more do you want? Unless you're looking for another nibble. Fine. as long as I don't have to go back to animal blood. It's muck. But now that you know what I am, I can fight with all my weapons, teeth included. And if I happen to drain the occasional bandit, what's the harm? As am I. I'm starting to feel a little peckish already.
Okay, that's it. So, yeah, the chat being frozen on screen. Again, I don't know why that happens. It didn't happen all day yesterday, and now today, out of the blue, it happens. I'm just going to turn off the on-screen chat. You guys will still have access to the chat in the YouTube sidebar. I will try and get that sorted out. I might have some ideas on what's causing it, but sorry about that. So we'll talk to Astarion again, just make sure there's nothing else here.
I suppose you want to hear about Cazador. I don't want to say a damned thing, but that won't do anyone any good. Cazador Zar is a vampire lord in Baldur's Gate, the patriarch of his coven, and a monster obsessed with power. Not political power or military power, I mean power over people. The power to control them completely. He turned me nearly 200 years ago.
Okay, so we've heard these.
I became his spawn.
We've heard these conversations before.
He had me go out into Baldur's Gate to fetch him the most beautiful souls I could find. It was a fun little ritual of his. I'd bring them back, and he'd ask if I wanted to dine with him. And if I said yes, he'd serve me a dead, putrid rat. Of course, if I said no, he'd have me flayed. Hard to say which was worse. I will, but I won't take it for granted. The Mind Flayers aren't the only monsters out there. They're not even the only ones hunting us. All I'm asking is that you keep your eyes open and watch out for anything lurking in the shadows. What more could I ask? Now, is that all?
Okay, so that should be it for all the conversations with Astarion, I believe.
What can I do for you, my friend?
Yes. Okay, so now we'll talk to Lae'zel.
Speak.
Nothing new there.
Well met.
Again. And Gale wants to talk to us.
Oh. My, you startled me. It's miles away. Not praying. Not quite. I was just practicing an incantation.
Okay, so I do have insight proficiency here. Just barely.
What can I say? She's Mistra. I can't quite describe it. The need I sometimes feel to see her. To draw the filaments of fantasy into existence. No sculpture or painting could ever do her justice. Only the fabric that she herself is and embodies. The weave. Mistra is all magic. As far as I'm concerned, she is all creation. Magic is my life. I've been in touch with the weave for as long as I can remember. There's nothing like it. It's like music, poetry, physical beauty, all rolled into one and given expression through the senses. Would you like to experience this? Then follow my lead. Now you.
Okay, so any of these that I have here are simply adding in guidance, so it doesn't really matter.
You feel something strange, like a kind word and a kind touch at the same time. It's warm and comfortable.
Excellent. Now, repeat after me. Athran mistraril kantrak eo.
We'll try performance here just because of the extra charisma bonus.
Suddenly, the scent of rosewater and a sense of well-being. A sliver of weave that tastes sweet on the tongue.
Very good. Now, I want you to picture in your mind the concept of harmony, as true as you can.
Hey, our first nat 20.
You see, or is it sense, the presence of a woman. The woman who hovered over Gale's palm. There's something like the anticipation of a kiss, then the pleasure of being cloaked in peace. You are safe. You are nestled in the cup of Mystra's hand.
You did it! You're channeling the weave. How does it feel? Oh, I know.
The weave connects you. The moment feels intimate. The weave evaporates, and as it does so, you realize the night feels suddenly cold and lonesome.
Oh. There it goes. How easily things slip away from us, no matter how hard they were in the obtaining. Good night. I enjoyed sharing a moment of magic with you.
Okay, so now we can talk to Gale, just make sure there are no other conversation options.
How can I help?
We all have our burdens, one way or the other.
I assure you it's not. Don't get me wrong, you did well. The somatic component, the verbal component, even the focus on the inner self that invites Mystra in.
But I was still your conduit. To perform such a feat alone requires much and arduous study. Of course, as a warlock, your patron endows you with many such powers, otherwise unattainable. I do hope you cherish that gift.
Okay, so that's it. No, Star, it's not. In in Baldur's Gate 3, you can play out your prospective romances with any of the origin characters any way you want. It doesn't restrict you in any of that. So now we still have our Oathbreaker Knight and Withers down here.
Fate spins along as it should. Dost thou require a new ally? Or mayhaps a resurrection instead?
So, same options. You can talk about the hirelings. My party's full right now. I'm not going to focus on the hireling yet until I get 2 spell slots here on my Warlock subclass. But we will be looking into that a little bit later on in our playthrough. Just not right now. We're going to auto-select here. Remove the pair to get us exactly to 40. And that should be good. Okay, so now we don't have anything else that we need to do here in camp, so we're going to go ahead and look at, actually our camp won't have it. We're going to head back, we're going to leave camp, head back here, and we can take a look at our mini-map, and you can see that we've explored the Emerald Grove area, with the exception of what's happening inside this house, and we will deal with that, just not right at this point. We've explored everything through here. The Blighted Village is now open to us. We kind of skirted the south and east part of it to get down here into the tea house area, but we're a little bit under-leveled to be going through the Auntie Ethel section of the quest here. We certainly could. It's not like you're going to be hugely undervalued there, but when I'm on live stream and I'm not save scumming, it just doesn't make any sense for me to go down there until I'm ready. So we're going to head back here toward the Blighted Village and kind of explore that area. Okay, since we've already been this way and explored all of this, we can just click way out in front of us and have our party members walk all the way out there. It doesn't really matter. Okay, so we are going to take one little side detour first here, and that is to go deal with this area here, which is north and east of the Blighted Village. There is an encounter that we want to do here. That we skipped over after we dealt with Edwin. I don't know if we actually ever searched Edwin's body. We did not. No. We want to take that and take that. This we can all send to camp. So off of Edwin's body, we picked up the broken shaft of a spear. And that broken shaft is going to be very important for us in an encounter that we are going to have inside of the Blighted Village. Well, actually, to be more specific, inside of the Whispering Depths. So For now, I'm going to cast Guidance, and since we're exploring kind of a new area down here, I'm just going to take it a little slower. Holding Alt periodically as we go. Okay, and just picking up some crafting items and another shield down here. Now we just head back the way we came, and we're going to cross over to this side here.
Owlbear tracks. Its nest must be nearby.
Okay. And this, if you remember from the encounter with Edwin, the owlbear is what inflicted the wounds that ultimately killed Edwin. So we're going to head in here into the owlbear nest.
Stench. Dead owlbear prey, no doubt.
Okay, so we're going to continue heading on down this way, holding Alt as we go. And we get down here to this area, and you can look inside here, and actually I think we'll go do this first. So we're going to head back where we were and climb down this cragged rock.
Selune statue in a stinking cave. Hardly a place of honor.
So we passed a religion check there and realized that this is a statue to Selune, and we've talked about Selune and Shar as well.
Magic keeping this chest sealed. I can feel its aura.
Okay, and the reason I wanted to come down here is because I knew there's a potion of animal speaking down here that I wanted to pick up first. We can pick up the other scrolls, the potions. There is a book down here which you can read. The chest, you can see in the status effects, it's got Selune's seal on it. So if you mouse over it, it basically says any heretic that touches it, it's going to deal 4d6 of radiant damage. So you don't want to go clicking on the chest right now. What we will do is break our group, and we will jump across to this side. And we did perceive the prayer sheet here. So we're going to pick that up. There's another book here.
With the same symbol as the one on the chest.
That, again, you can pick up. There's nothing else over there, so now we're going to jump back. And while we're here next to the chest, now you can read the prayer sheet.
My prayers are answered.
And that basically lets the chest know that you're not a heretic, and now you can loot the chest.
You should leave it, or even destroy it if possible. This rubbish is an offering to Selune. At best, it's worthless. At worst, who knows? Could be cursed. Do not trifle with that moon witch, or her trinkets. Only trouble will follow.
Okay, so we have some options here about how to go. I'm going to try the inside option, even though persuasion has a higher chance of success. Because I want to find out more about, try and find out more about why she cares so much. This is going to be a much higher DC, because Shadowheart, again, keeps all of her secrets close to the vest. And I passed. Good deal.
have stayed quiet. You want the truth? Fine. I worship Shah, Mistress of the Night, Selune's twin and foe. Now that you have the truth, please don't make a big fuss about it.
Heavens forbid. We're all entitled to our secrets.
Forever, ideally. And you assume too much about what I can and cannot tell. Secrecy is everything for Shah's children. It is our code, our creed, our shield. I even keep secrets from myself. I had my memories suppressed, so that nothing I know could be used against the Dark Lady. Once I prove myself, my memories will be restored. I'm not sorry I kept this from you. Not one bit. Though, perhaps that might change, if you can show an open mind. Talk to me later. We've got more pressing matters to see to right now.
Okay, and that's why we get our indication here that Shadowheart is a worshipper of Shar. There's a lot of lore between Selune and Shar, but they are that. They are twin goddesses, and they are diametrically opposed to each other. There's, like I say, a lot of lore behind that in the Forgotten Realms. You can feel free to check that out entirely on your own time. But I am going to take the potion of animal speaking, and that is going to last until long rest. So I've got access to it for a while now. So what I will want to do is, before I take a long rest, I will want to head back to the Druid's Grove and have all of those conversations with the animals around there before I take a long rest. Hey Jonah, welcome to the stream. Oh, thanks. I appreciate that. It kind of makes me a little self-conscious talking about it. All of you who watch my streams and have done that, like I say, I will never ask you for any of that. That's not why I stream. But for all of you who've done it, I honestly can't thank you enough. It's really humbling to have that. So I certainly appreciate it. Thank you very much, Jonah.
Heavy footsteps before you see it. An owlbear, its beaked face looming out of the darkness.
What's this? Something weak, something tender. Won't even have to chew you before I feed you to my son. Soft meat. It's a splinter. I've gutted bigger threats than you with worse.
Okay, so we have a persuasion option here that we're going to try.
You're small, weak. Killing you would be a waste of time. You can go, but you make one wrong step and I'll rip you to shreds.
Okay. So, unfortunately for her, for this encounter, you can play this encounter out multiple ways. However, no matter how you play it out, the owlbear, whether it's now or whether it's later, is not going to survive. So we are going to initiate this encounter here because we want to have access to an item that she has before we go into the Whispering Depths. So that's what we're going to do. We're just going to move Gale and Shadowheart up here to the top. We will put them both into hiding.
None shall see me.
Can't see a thing from down
We will take Astarion and put him into hiding as well. We're just going to move him back a little ways. And as usual, we're going to kick this off with our Paladin.
Moving in.
And she's going to get upset as we do this. Actually, you know what I can do? Let's try and actually do this another way. Let's bring my Paladin. Let's wait for her to move back. We'll take my Paladin up here. Put him into hiding, and we'll initiate this with Astarion like we normally do. And we're going to kick this off in turn-based mode and take advantage for a sneak attack. Okay, so the enemy's surprised, so we have one full turn here to get in all of our attacks without either one of them being able to respond. Since they rolled bad on the end here, they're going to come out of surprise at the end of this turn, then we'll have a whole nother turn to be able to initiate our attack. So the Owlbear here, I don't think is going to survive this at all. I don't think it's even going to get an attack on us. So we're going to cunning action hide here. Actually, I'm thinking about this because I would like to utilize this. I should have not done that. Well, we'll move Astarion up and get him in a position for the next round of combat to do what I want to do with him. So for now, we'll just initiate another sneak attack. And we got a crit. Now this is going to be a bit of a problem.
Nothing will stand in my way.
So we'll go down here and get an attack. Okay. Okay, we don't need to Divine Smite here. There's no need for me to waste it, because the Owlbear is going to die here, so I'm not too worried about how this is going to happen. I'm just going to move Astarion up here with his movement. And again, not going to waste my spell slots here. Just going to utilize cantrips and that sort of stuff to cause damage. Because, again, I don't think the Owlbear is going to get a chance to attack.
Can't afford to let up.
Okay, so for Astarion, I want to get a Vampire Bite in here.
Make it hurt.
Okay, first, it's a guaranteed hit. And it's going to get Astarion okay, so it should give me the happy trait. We'll see if it pops up next turn. And now I can see if I can get a sneak attack in here. I can.
Lance board is set.
Cub looks from you to his dead mother.
Wake. Hungry.
A single strike will end his suffering.
It hurts. Hungry. Food.
You watch, speechless, as the cub begins to eat his mother.
The cub has a fighting chance now.
That, or we've just prolonged its misery.
Okay, so you definitely want to leave the cub alive. That's just the start of an ongoing thing that we're going to deal with here in our playthrough. And here you get the head of a broken spear. This is what was embedded in the Owlbear's head. We're going to take that, and now we have both of these items in our inventory. So we're going to combine these two together, and we get the Vision of the Absolute. The Vision of the Absolute is a spear, which means it's a versatile weapon. It can be used either one-handed or two-handed, which means I can use it with a shield. So what's important about that is that when I get into a certain encounter in the Whispering Depths, I can use this with a shield so I can up my armor class while I'm using it, while at the same time I get the benefit of Absolute Night. So it blinds a target that fails a dexterity saving throw, but it deals an additional 2d6 piercing damage to creatures that have multiple sets of eyes, like spiders and spectators and beholders. Things like that, it causes an additional 2d6 damage. So the 1d6 you get from wielding it with a shield, that turns into 3d6 damage against spiders and spectators, beholders, things like that have multiple sets of eyes, and that is more than the 2d6 and the 1d4 of the Everburn Blade. Plus, I get +2 bonus to my armor class. So in certain conditional encounters, the Everburn Blade is going to be taking a back seat to the Vision of the Absolute and a shield. Okay, so that's another reason to keep it around. But for now, that's something just to keep in the back of your mind.
I have something to ask.
Oblivious to your presence, the cub continues to gorge himself on his dead mother.
Okay, so now we can take a look back here toward the back.
What's hiding here?
Here, and the Oak Father's Embrace is here. We'll talk about that here in a second. There's an owlbear egg that we can pick up.
An owlbear egg. These are supposed to be worth a fortune.
And then we can check around the other side over here.
More owlbear eggs. Already hatched. No point in taking these.
And then this would lead you back down into the area where we started out. So we're just going to go ahead and head straight across here and head up and out of the cave. As you can see, we finished everything inside of here. I thought I did. Did I not loot it? I might have just completely skipped over it while I was talking to Shadowheart. I did. Thanks, Lord Henry. I appreciate that. Why is it giving me a sleight of hand check now for this? Okay, well, I passed it. Normally, yeah, that was kind of strange. I don't know why it made me pass that check after I had already released the ward. So, interesting. Like I say, not entirely sure how or why that played out how it did. The Oak Father's Embrace is medium armor. It's a set of armor that if undead creatures hit you, then the undead receives 1d6 radiant damage. However, if you get attacked by like the owlbear, which is a beast, that hit you, then I am going to take an additional 1d6 damage. So it's one of those kind of druid role-playing type of armors, where if you're fighting against animals, which you wouldn't do or want to do normally as a druid, you're going to be taking extra damage from them as you do it. So not something I'm going to be utilizing on my playthrough here. So all of these things, all of these items here, again, you can read this right, but it just talks about Selune and somebody who was one of Selune's worshippers. All of these are going to end up being wares. And you picked up the Moondrop Pendant. The Moondrop Pendant is one of those damage-based items where if you get your hit points below 50%, or 50% or less, then you don't provoke opportunity attacks, which can be useful if you are hurt and you want to try and escape without using one of your either bonus actions in the case of Astarion, or an action from somebody else to disengage. You can, if you're less, or 50% of your hit points or less, you can just walk away and you won't provoke an opportunity attack. So it's better than nothing for people who might be in that type of situation. It's not really something that you're going to keep on you all of the time. It's something you're going to end up getting rid of fairly quickly, though, as you go through this. Yeah, I think I've looted that. I think I've looted that chest about 10 times. My various streams or playthroughs, and yeah, completely got distracted. But again, one more reason why I like my chat. You guys are great about reminding me about that stuff. So
you seem to know a good deal about our condition, Gale.
Everything, really. Not to put too fine a point on it.
A humble specimen.
hey, Rude, thanks for showing up on the stream. I appreciate it. Okay, so now down here you have a couple of different ways that you can go. You can cross up here, or you can cross this way, and we're going to head up this way here. Yes, we're going to head up here. I'm going to wait for everybody to join me up here. And then over here, something that doesn't show up when you hold Alt, but you have a beehive.
What's in here?
You can loot the beehive for honeycomb, which are camp supplies. So be on the lookout for those. There's something else that we're going to also be on the lookout for as we go through this area, and I'll show it to you once we find it. So we can come around here to this side, and we have some stuff that we can search real quick. We have some fish and a bucket of fish. There is a fishing rod. You can pick that up and put it in your inventory, but there is no fishing in the game at this point anyway. I will caveat that. There's no fishing in the game at this point in time. Okay, now the other thing that won't show up on the Alt key are these berry bushes. Okay, and those berries are useful because they're one camp supply each. So it can be useful when you get to that 39 point to be able to just split one of those off and take it to get you to 40. There aren't a whole lot of items that are only one camp supply, so keep your eye out for them when you're walking around. Okay, and now we're going to talk to Scratch, and you need to be careful when you're clicking to talk with Scratch. You do not want to click on the body of Gomwick here. You want to click on Scratch.
Keep moving, stranger. Quietly.
You do not have to have animal speaking when you're doing this. It just makes it easier to discern what's happening here.
I told you to go.
Okay, so now we have some persuasion options here. So, and the Paladin actually gives us advantage on this check. But you can do a regular perception check here by just looking at his collar. We also have intimidation, but I'm going to go with the persuasion option here. And you can see how powerful having advantage on a dice roll is.
There's death in your scent, but not in your words. Still, you should go. My friend is injured. He needs rest. Of course he will. And then we'll return home.
This option here will put you into combat with Scratch. So you can certainly do that. I did it on... I can't remember if it was my Bard live stream or if it was the Barbarian live stream, just to see what it did. But yeah, if you don't want to have Scratch around, you can go this way.
He calls me Scratch. You can do the same. We were attacked. With cackling, furry things on two legs. And their smell, it was strange, rotten, evil.
You know the creatures he describes. Gnolls.
No, I won't leave him. If it comes to that, I may. Thank you.
Okay. The other thing that does is once you've kind of befriended Scratch, it turns Gomwick from stealing into being able to be looted. And he does have some camp supplies. But he's also got 3 letters here. And you can read all of these. And it's basically from people who are back at Baldur's Gate. And he's delivering mail out here, is what his job is. So there's also this note in here where S is talking to somebody named Nine Fingers, saying that they left the city, but to go to the graveyard and look for an M. Kerwin is buried. Start digging there and you'll find enough valuables to settle matters between us. So when you get to the city, you can go look for the graveyard and look for this particular grave and dig up some treasure. Now again, none of my playthroughs are in Act 3 yet, so I'm just going to take all of these and then maybe I can end up delivering them or talking to the people in Baldur's Gate who wrote them and let them know that that letter didn't go through or something. But for now, I'm just going to pick them up. And we'll kind of deal with them later, much later on in the playthrough as we get to that point. So we are going to cast guidance here as we start to open up the minimap and kind of walk ourselves back. Toward the entrance. And you see that there's a collapsed burrow here. These are also do not show up on left alt. And you can see we're getting up toward the Blighted Village as well. And we can slowly just start to make our way back toward the main entrance. There is another beehive here that we can search. And we found this rocky crevice. This rocky crevice is another way for you to get up into the village. Papa, there are 3. If you consider the end game sequence all by itself, there could possibly be a 4th. But really, they say that the game's broken into 3 acts. So this rocky crevice, if you click on it right now, you're not going to be able to do anything with it. However, if you have the enlarge reduce spell, then you can cast it and you can walk through it if you have a shapeshift of some sort to be able to change. And actually, that's an interesting question. I haven't looted it out of my camp chest yet.
My faith will guide me.
Yeah, I don't have it on me. But if you got the deluxe edition of the game, it comes with a helmet that allows you to shapeshift, and you could turn yourself into a gnome and possibly get through this opening, or your druid wild shape into something like a cat or something like that to be able to go through these rocky crevices and get you into areas that you might not have access to until either later or in a different way. So
never mind.
You're going to find those spread throughout the game here, and you just have to be on the lookout for them. Okay, so again, we're just opening up the map and exploring a little bit.
Don't mind if I do.
Okay, we have a bird's nest down here that we can search. And here is the other way that I talked about from the owlbear's nest heading up there. We also do have a hunter's stash down here. I don't think there's anything... yes, I believe your familiars, if they're small enough, can get through it. Now, your familiar is going to be a little different because your familiar is going to want to stay with you as you move that character. They can't be separated from your character. So if you have a familiar go through there and it takes you up to the village and then you start walking that character this way, that familiar might try and path up here through the village to get to you and might trigger combat or something like that. So be careful with familiars or things that you can't physically separate and control from each other when doing that. But yes, it very possibly could. And we've already seen the exsanguinated boar. We've already been down this direction here before. So now this lets us know that we are back where we want to be here at this location. So here we've already gone through our perception check here, and I believe we have. Maybe we haven't. We'll move up here toward the gate. Okay, yes, we have. We've gone through the perception check. Yes, because we've searched all of these. So we're going to put everybody into hiding here, and we're going to toggle our group. And we're going to get set up for the ambush that we detected previously here. Now, there are multiple ways that you can approach this. And one of the things that we want to do here is utilize our tadpole powers. We want to utilize those powers at least twice. And we can do that both times in here in separate encounters. So we're going to actually take our paladin here, and we're going to go into here and not trigger a hostile encounter, but then we're going to end up killing these goblins anyway. But we want to utilize our tadpole power here to, like I say, at least 2 times. So we're going to do it once with our paladin, and then once with a different character, so that we can start down the whole tadpole power line and investigation of that.
Get over there! Surround him like! You spotted us. Good. It's like they say. No fun in skewing a pig what doesn't know he's cooked. We got you surrounded. Here's how this goes. You take one step further, and we'll fill your front with arrows. Or you turn around, and your backside gets the same treatment.
As the symbol glows, power courses through you. Authority.
Okay, so we want to use our Illithid Wisdom here. And again, we have advantage. We can only fail it with a natural 1. Rolled our second nat 20.
You're a true soul. But my mistake, sir.
Your mind lurches, reeling suddenly as if bitten.
You'll get no more trouble from us. Promise.
Okay. And it looks like that did a couple of things for us. The first thing is that he's now utilized his Tadpole power for the day. So he is not going to be able to use that power to convince anybody else that he is a true soul and that sort of stuff. So future encounters, you want to utilize somebody else if you want to go down that way. And that's what we're going to go do. However, I wasn't expecting the fact, but pleasantly surprised that we now got enough XP for a level up here. So we can go through that quickly, and then I can explain how some of these level ups are going to start going, and then we can get into the main combat here and spend the rest of the live stream basically tearing up some goblins. So let's go through our level ups. Okay, so here's where we are. It defaults us to leveling up Paladin. And you can see that at level 3 we're going to get Dreadful Aspect and Control Undead and also a couple of Oath spells. If we take that second level and use it instead for Warlock, we gain another Warlock spell slot. What that allows us to do is gain us an additional Divine Smite charge. And now, whenever we do a short rest, instead of getting one spell slot or one Divine Smite charge back, we now get 2. So what we now have is the 2 level 1 spell slots that come with the Paladin. We get the 2 level 1 Warlock spots for Divine Smites for a total of 4, and then we can use 2 short rests to get 4 more Warlock spell slots back before we have to take a long rest, for a total of 8 Divine Smites before we have to take a long rest. So this is why when I talked about the level 3 level up when I added Warlock, this is how you would do it in tabletop, because your DM is just not going to let you take a long rest after every encounter. It's just not, they're not going to let you do it. They focus you on action economy and how to preserve those things as you're going through a dungeon. And I tend to play the same way. You don't have to in this game because you find camp supplies everywhere. And if you want to take a long rest every 5 minutes, you probably can't afford to do it with all of the camp supplies in this game. I choose not to do it that way. So if you're going to stay with Paladin up through level 5 until you get your first extra attack, and then start going through Warlock to level 5, and then the last 2 level ups in Paladin for your Hexblade Paladin type setup, I mean, that's perfectly viable in this game. In tabletop, you just wouldn't normally do it that way. You would get all of the extra Divine Smites before a long rest to up your damage before you have to go to camp. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do here again. So it's going to give me my second Warlock spell slot. So looking at our spells that we have available to us here, we're going to get... Okay, so for our options here, Hex is your Warlock thing. However, I'm not relying on my Paladin to get spell damages, so to speak, meaning cause all of his damage with spells. The Eldritch Invocations for your Eldritch Blast are great because those can just be cast anytime that you're not within melee range. So spells that I'm going to be able to cast once and last until my next long rest are really good things to have. However, concentration spells are a little harder to deal with in that if you can cast it once and then you can hold your concentration, that works really, really well. However, my Paladin isn't really set up that way yet because my Constitution is still 14, so I'm getting a +2 to my saving throws and my concentration checks at that point. However, it could be much higher. What's going to happen is right now I'm spec'd around strength and charisma and constitution. You wouldn't do that if you were planning to build a Hexblade Paladin from scratch in tabletop. The reason that you go with a Hexblade one of the reasons to go with a Hexblade Paladin is because you can use charisma as your 2-hit modifier for your weapons. You just can't do that until you've leveled up your warlock to a certain point and you get packed weapons. So at that point, you don't need strength to hit anymore. You can use your charisma to hit with your melee weapons. So you can put strength as a dump stat and put all of those points into charisma and constitution. And if you can get your constitution high enough, it makes saving these concentration spells a lot easier and a lot more viable. Hex is great as long as you can keep your concentration. You cast it once, and then as soon as you kill an enemy, you can just use your bonus action to reapply it to other enemies. However, what I think is probably a better option is either something like Armor of Agathis or Arms of Hadar, depending upon how you want to spec out your party. So at some point when I respec my Paladin's points here and I get my Constitution up more, I may choose Hex as one of my spells and focus on it that way. However, I can cast Armor of Agathis. It lasts until long rest. I gain 5 temporary hit points, and then I deal 5 cold damage to any creature that hits me with a melee attack all the way up until my long rest. So it's just free 5 cold damage for anybody that hits me. And it's not concentration, so I don't have to worry about keeping it up all of the time as I'm going. So it's just, you have your own ways to go about it. It's just right now I'm not going to be specking around the additional damage for Hex right now until I do a respec of my points here. So Eldritch Invocation's Agonizing Blast is one of those go-to 90% of your playthroughs are probably going to utilize it just because Agonizing Blast is free damage. It adds your charisma modifier onto the damage that your Eldritch Blast does. So just very useful. Now from here, as far as your second Eldritch Invocation goes, there's one that I think is probably the most useful in the game at this point. And then there's one that is probably the most useful in the game the farther we go through the game. First, Repelling Blast is very useful because of the verticality that we have in this game. There's so many high places that you fight on that you can use Repelling Blast to knock an enemy off of a cliff and cause fall damage, or knock them into a void, or something like that, and make fights so much easier. So early starting out, Repelling Blast is very, very useful, but then even later on in the game, if you can get a Repelling Blast in combination with something like Hex, where you give the person you're dealing with a disadvantage on a strength check, then Repelling Blast can possibly knock really high hit point enemies into voids and end very challenging encounters, or make them somewhat trivial. Stuff that your DM probably would never let you do in tabletop. You can certainly do here. So Repelling Blast is one of those things that works all the way through the game. Devil's Sight, however, can be very, very useful in the late game, because later on in the game, you're going to get a lot of encounters that have a bunch of enemies. And those enemies, especially if you can draw them toward your main melee tank character, will all group up around him. If you cast Darkness on that character, then all of the enemies around that character are now blinded, and they have disadvantage on all of their attacks. Whereas if you have Devil Sight, you can see in magical darkness, including the darkness spell. So you won't have disadvantage on any of your attacks. You can just sit there and be surrounded by enemies, let them keep attacking you with all of their disadvantage and keep missing, and you can just keep beating them down. But you have to have somebody that's going to be able to cast the darkness spell on you. You can do it yourself, later on. That becomes a spell option that you're going to have, but you don't want to waste one of your spell slots to do it. You realistically want to have one of your support casters or somebody like that cast the darkness spell. Keep darkness active since it's, I believe it's concentration. Move back away from the fight a little bit and let you just fight in the darkness. So this is much more useful later on in the playthrough. And since we are going to have a chance to select more Eldritch Invocations, I'm not going to take it right now. I'm going to focus on Repelling Blast. So as far as replace spell goes, the two spells that I have are very, very useful, and I'm going to keep them. So I'm not going to swap anything out for any of these that I have right now. I'm very happy with the two that I have. Okay, so now I'm 2 Paladin, 2 Warlock going forward, and I've got a substantial damage dealing increase with my Warlock spell slot.
What comes now?
So for Shadowheart, and I've talked about this quite a bit, for most of my playthroughs, I'm going to keep the early sections of most of them fairly straightforward, with the exception of Astarion. Astarion's going to be a little different, but for now, everybody else is going to be fairly straightforward with their single, not multi-class type of selections. So for here, as a cantrip, having Blade Ward available to you as a cantrip can be very, very useful, especially when you get into that throwing your melee character down in the middle of everybody type of fight, and them taking only half damage from bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing attacks. So that's the way I'm going to go with her. For my prepared spells here, at this point, I think we're going to get rid of Shield of Faith and probably substitute that for Blade Ward. And, well, I'll prepare that later since I don't have access to Blade Ward in here right now. But I'll probably end up swapping that out. Oh, I don't need to because that's a cantrip. That's my fault. So right now, I think I'm still fairly okay with these. Even with the nerf to Spiritual Weapon, I think it's still a really good idea to have it available to me. So I'm going to keep this lineup for now. It's just whether or not I end up keeping Silence and maybe swapping it out for Hold Person or something like that are the real options here. So now, level 4 is where you get your first feat for all your classes. Now, the default way to go about this is ability improvement. You can put 2 points, up to 2 points in any, or you can put 1 point in one and a single point in another. Okay, so here this would get her wisdom modifier up to +4 and her dex modifier up to +2. Dex with medium armor for her directly impacts her armor class, so she would be gaining an AC out of this, which is the most likely use. However, don't neglect the other feats that are in this list. There are a lot of things in this list, and it's way too much time to go through all of them. A lot of content creators have already put out some great videos talking about these feats and what they do and don't do as far as improving your character. Ability improvement is always a great thing to have. However, there are other feats in here which can be very, very useful, and my Paladin is going to show off some of that when we get to a point later on. When we get to level 6 and we're able to choose our first feat after level 4 Warlock, you'll see how we're going to change this up a little bit with our feat selection. But for now, I think this is the best option for a straight cleric here. It gets her a +4 to wisdom, which is her spell to hit DC, as well as upping her armor class by another one, so she can avoid taking hits and keep her concentration up better. The only other ability score improvement we'd be able to do would be for strength, and that would get her up to a +2 from a +1, but that really doesn't have a whole lot of benefit for her as a cleric, so I think this is still the best choice for her at this point. So for Astarion, okay, I've already told you that Astarion is going to be multi-classed. However, what we are going to do with him is wait until we get to level 6 with Astarion before we multi-class. Now, that's a little bit controversial in the tabletop version of the build that I'm putting together, or the build that I have put together, because of the whole concept of the extra attack, and how that's going to impact the build that I'm going to have set up. But for now, I think leveling him up and going from there is like I say, the best way to go about this. So with his assassin trait having the advantage on attack rolls against creatures that I haven't taken a turn yet is a huge deal. Meaning when he rolls high in initiative and everybody below him is not taking a turn yet, he has advantage on any of his attack rolls against him. Now, Astarion puts out most of his damage from range. So having the sharpshooter trait means that this is the ranged version of Great Weapon Master. In the ranged attacks with weapons you are proficient with have a -5 penalty to their attack roll, but deal an additional 10 damage. You can toggle this on or off. What that means is that I can do a straight extra 10 damage at a really hefty penalty on my attack roll. However, I have advantage on attack rolls against creatures that haven't taken a turn yet. And advantage is very, very good at negating that -5 penalty. Now with this, since I only have that advantage against creatures that haven't taken a turn yet, I'm only going to get it on the first attack of the very first round. And then after that, I might not want to take the penalty. I might sacrifice the damage just to make sure I hit more often. And in that case, I can just toggle off the all-in and do regular damage and not have the penalty to my attack. So with the assassinate advantage roll, it makes this a lot more viable. Okay. It also means that my ranged weapon attacks do not receive penalties from the high ground rules. So the high ground rules here were changed in patch 6, I believe. Now when you attack from above, it's a flat +2 bonus to your attack roll, and when you attack from below, it's a -2. And as long as that height difference is 2.5 meters, you gain or lose that penalty. However, with sharpshooter, doesn't matter where I attack from, that -2 to hit no longer matters. So if I'm attacking from low ground, all in, that would be a -7 penalty, but because of this, it's only -5, and if I'm doing it on the first round, I have advantage on that. So it makes sharpshooter a lot more useful, especially early on. And also remember that I have ambush. So if I'm rolling first and I surprise the enemy, they haven't taken a turn yet, I have advantage on this attack, and then if they're surprised and I hit and it's a crit, I'm doubling the damage here. Now, you'll see how that applies with this flat 10 damage here as we go through this, and you'll see how that works. So, and I'm not going to tell you one way or another yet. We'll see it as it plays out on our first attack roll here as we go. So Gale leveling up here. Again, I'm going to keep Gale as a wizard straight through on level 4. So he's going to get a new choice of a cantrip here. And for Gale, his cantrips are kind of meh, in my opinion. But they can be useful for certain things. Gale is a damage-dealing spellcaster, so him as a support caster really doesn't serve a whole lot of purpose in my mind with his cantrips. So Acid Splash or Bone Chill or something like that, which you can use from range, are much better to use. These cause flat damage. This will cause an AoE, a small AoE Acid Splash when it hits. Bone Chill gives you the advantage of that if you cast it on an undead target and it hits, then they're going to have disadvantage on their attack rolls for that turn. So in undead encounters, Bone Chill could possibly help you out more if you're doing it. However, cantrips for him at this point are more fallbacks. So it doesn't really matter as much what I do with him, but I don't necessarily want him having to cast Dancing Lights or Light. I would like my support caster to be casting those things if at all possible. Okay, so for here, it doesn't really matter for me which way I go. I'm just going to go with Acid Splash. Now, Minor Illusion can be very useful and is a very interesting cantrip to have, especially when you get into that whole darkness thing that I talked about previously. Casting Minor Illusion next to your melee character and then casting darkness over it all and have all of them swooping into that darkness to investigate the Minor Illusion can be very, very powerful. So, but for now, it's not something I'm gonna focus on. So for my spells, 2 additional level 2 spells here to work with. Knock is very useful if you don't have an Astarion type or a support type lockpicker in your party. But I obviously am going to be keeping Astarion with me this entire time, so it's not going to be nearly as useful. Misty Step for Gale is incredibly useful and is almost one of those default you have to take it type of things. And then here's the darkness spell that I talked about previously. We will eventually be looking at ways to get the darkness spell to be able to cast. It's not something that I'm going to do right now. I'm going to focus on some other things during this time, and one of them is Shatter. Shatter can be incredibly useful. Web is also incredibly useful. But between these two, I'm going to go with Shatter to start with. So then for my prepared spells here, again, at this point, Sleep is still useful. However, I'm going to remove Thunder Wave, and I'm going to replace it with Shatter. Sleep is still useful, but at some point, Sleep is probably going to end up going away. But for now, Witch Bolt I'm going to remove in favor of Misty Step. Now, this is kind of giving me an outsized number of level 2 spells right now. But the way that I tend to play Gale, it doesn't really matter that much because Magic Missile is my go-to level 1 spell for most times. So being able to cast it all of the time with my level 1s is perfectly fine. Having these available to me are very situational. I have an AoE damage spell that can knock people back. I have an AoE denial spell to cast into choke points. I have my multi-target big damage spell that I can cast. And I have my I need to get the heck out of dodge spell. So they're all very situational and aren't going to be used on top of each other for the most part. So feats for Gale, again, don't sleep on like Magic Initiate, a Magic Initiate Wizard. So you're going to basically be able to learn 2 more cantrips and an additional level 1 spell. And that level 1 spell you can cast once per long rest without using a spell slot. Okay? So your cantrips work just like regular cantrips. So if you want to really max out on cantrips and have him also be type of a support caster, being able to cast light and friends and that sort of stuff, you certainly can. But that's not where I'm going to focus on him. I want to obviously get his intelligence up to where it needs to be. So for my next options, it's really basically, do I want to put 1 into dexterity and up his armor class by 1? or do I want to put it into Constitution? And I'm going to put it in Constitution. The reason for that is Constitution affects not just my hit points, but also my ability to keep my concentration on my spells. And that's going to become quite important for him later on, especially as we move into more constant AoE damaging spells. But right now it's very important for Cloud of Daggers and things like that. So that's why I'm going to focus here as opposed to Dexterity. The Dexterity is what it is. It's already fairly low, and I can improve on that with some other items as opposed to just upping his ability improvement for it. We will deal with all the other characters in camp a little bit later on, but Gale wants to talk to us.
Glad you've a moment for me. My predicament has become rather urgent. I need a magical artifact to consume. Right now. We've already found enough magic to soothe its disquiet. If you'll just give me what I need.
Okay, so he needs it, and we don't want to neglect this when we get to this point. So it's now going to come up with what items do we have available to give him. And the Ring of Color Spray is an obvious one to give up. We also have stuff like the Watcher's Guide, which isn't going to be very useful to us right now that we can give up. So some of the others are going to be much more useful as we go, or we already have them equipped. So for now, I think I'm just going to give up the Ring of Color Spray. It's not something I'm going to utilize anyway. So we'll donate that to Will, to Gale.
That hit the spot. I can feel it work. The magic, it's like a lullaby that sings to sleep the demon inside. A metaphorical demon, I haste to point out, but no less dangerous. And no less bound to wake up again to continue its ravages. Such is the nature of all monsters.
Oh, it's not so bad once you get used to it. And, on the plus side, my tower in Waterdeep has never been so free of clutter.
Sincerely, though, I understand I ask a lot from you with few answers in return. But in time, all will be told.
My lord, I bow to your boundless kindness.
Okay, so if you let that condition continue, Gale will start. He'll start having some adverse effects. So you do want to take care of it as soon as he gives you that option. So that's why you always want to find one magical item that you're not going to use, and just keep it in your inventory for when that type of dialogue pops up from him. So
have to keep going.
For now, I'm going to sneak back in here, and I'm going to start positioning my characters for a fight here. You can, like we've said, we've already talked to them. They've agreed to let us go. We don't have to have a fight here. However, that's not how I play with goblins. And especially as a paladin, you would want to go in here and just kill all of the goblins for what they did to this village. So if you pass by this or let it go, you could possibly break your oath. So something else to be careful of when you're going through this. So I can cross over that detection cone. I can make my way up here to the top. Shadowheart and Gale, I'm going to leave out here for now. And I'm going to again start this off with Astarion, as I normally do. So here, what I'm going to do is focus on the two Booyogs that are here. We have some ranged attackers, but the Booyogs can cast some fairly nasty spells as you go. So you definitely want to focus on them. So for now, I can initiate a sneak attack ranged here. Now see, my sharpshooter all in is triggering up there, and that's giving me the -5 to hit. Now, I am not in combat yet, so my assassin traits they're not triggering. They're not offsetting that yet. So you can go to passives, and you can turn that off. And now if I go back to my sneak attack ranged, you can see that that's no longer there. However, I'm also getting an advantage from hiding. Okay? So I have the option here, just like I do with my first round using the assassin perk, to use advantage on this, and that's going to be something that's typical of all of my sneak attacks. So having advantage is going to help offset that -5 penalty. So I'm going to leave it on for this attack, and you can see instead of being 96% chance, I'm at an 80% chance to hit. That's still very, very favorable to hit here. So let's just go and try and initiate from here.
Seems you've pushed your luck too far. Time to defend yourself.
Okay, so you can see that I rolled 25 piercing damage on that roll. So you can see what happened with my damage roll. That was not a crit. With a hand crossbow, I rolled 25 damage, and that's because I rolled a 5 on my hand crossbow. I got a +1 from the weapon. I got a +3 from my dexterity modifier. This is the additional sneak attack damage, and this is the sharpshooter damage. This is without a crit. If this would have been during combat, where I have an opportunity to have the assassin advantage and the crit chance, this could be a lot higher number. Okay, and that can be illustrated here a little bit. And again, my detection cones are not rendering here, so I can't see what people are looking at. But what I'm going to do is try and move myself out of this detection cone here. And you can see I've got the Assassinate Initiative roll here that's now available to me because this goblin has not gone yet. So I'm going to move out of here. I'm going to use my bonus action to hide.
Let's have a little fun.
And now I've got a 70% chance here with my Assassinate Initiative to make this attack work. So with sneak attack, okay, again, 26 piercing damage on that. And again, that was not a crit. That was simply with sharpshooter and my sneak attack damage. So Astarion has now gone up in damage dealing potential quite a bit. Right? So now what I want to do is get my paladin up here on the roof. And when I do that, I'm going to walk through this detection cone, and it's probably going to trigger me into combat. Okay, it didn't, which is good. So the Warg Companion, I actually can't remember who cast the Sharp Eye, cast the Warg Companion. So if I kill the Sharp Eye, the Warg is going to disappear. So that's what I want to focus on, is trying to get my attacks done here so that I kill the Sharp Eye. That's going to remove the Warg. Its big detection cone is going to disappear. And then I can sneak around behind the Booyog and kill him. So let's look at Gale. See if we can move Gale in here and see if he is able to cast like magic missile or something like that on this sharp eye up here and see if we can get him killed. Okay, so he's got 12. If I cast it with 3, that would mean I would need to do 4 damage out of each one, which is max damage for magic missile. So if I cast at level 1, he's probably going to survive this. But I can try and follow that up. Okay, so I did roll the overages because of my intelligence modifier. So now he's gone. The warg disappeared. So now if I go back to my paladin, you can see I can sneak all the way around behind this booyog. And I can just put the booyog to sleep.
Carefully now.
Okay, so I did 10 damage against the booyog. I have an opportunity to add Divine Smite here, if I want to. And you know what? I might as well. And just remove that booyog from the fight entirely. So you see, we haven't even gotten everybody into combat, and there's only one goblin tracker left. Now, I don't think I'm going to be able to kill this last one. I could use Guiding Bolt, I guess, and see if I get a lucky high roll here with Shadowheart. Got 84% chance with advantage from hiding. And what do you know? Okay, so see, that's how easy taking advantage of positioning your characters can go and managing their turns. That was one of those best case scenario type things as far as how things work out. They're not all going to be that easy, but that gives us a very good example of how easy combat can go if you just do a little pre-planning. Okay, so now we're going to bring our party back down here. We can go up here with Astarion and search these two. Yeah, where were these rolls yesterday? Yesterday was a bad day for rolls.
No one stopped me yet.
Okay, so now I can group everybody up. And I'm not going to make the same mistake I did yesterday. I'm not going to do all the looting yet. I am going to, however, move everybody around this way. I am going to sneak attack this bugbear. It's sleeping. This is going to be an auto crit because he's sleeping. So, should be a one shot, and it was.
Have to keep going.
Okay, and now I want to group back up and head back out this way again. And I want to deal with this goblin that's kind of roaming around out here. And there are 2 more, or 3 more, that are over here as well. So we're going to be a little careful here with our movement. And there you can see the goblin. And again, he's not hostile right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch to Astarion, and I'm going to have Astarion come out of hiding and have him go use his Tadpole power.
If you want to keep your insides on
the inside. Don't cause any trouble.
Okay, so all of these goblins out here are now set to the same conditions, so using my Tadpole power again is not going to be able to be done on any of these goblins that are out here, because it looks like that ambush set the same condition for all of them. That's perfectly fine. I'm going to have another opportunity to use that Tadpole power a little bit later. So for now, I will just stick with Astarion here. I'll put him into hiding, and I will just ambush the living heck out of this goblin here. I'm going to go into turn-based mode. Move up right to the edge here. Okay, so I'm too far away from him here to do it. But here you see I have offsetting advantage and disadvantage. So here, my sharpshooter is going to be at a severe disadvantage, and that's why I've only got a 45% chance to hit, is because it's outside of my normal range. Okay, so what I'm actually going to do is come out of turn-based mode. I'm going to wait for him to turn around. Then I'm going to go into turn-based mode so I can get within range behind him and have all of my advantages for my attack damage to go against him. So as soon as he turns around here, this is good enough. Can cunning action hide, I can not melee, I can sneak attack ranged, and now you see I'm back to 70% chance to hit with my all-in. Okay. Easy peasy.
Help myself. Step lightly.
Does this count as adventuring?
So now I'm going to go deal with everyone's favorite group of NPCs. And that's, I'm going to move up here and deal with,
wonder if the gods are watching me.
With Lump. Actually, I won't yet. I forgot about this group of goblins over here. So we're going to move through the apothecary shop and deal with them before we go into deal with Lump.
Then keep looking.
Mind if I do?
Come on, got me something here.
So again, with Astarion,
How'd you know?
Just like old times.
I just do. Gotta be something in this heap. Getting drunk off their choppers in camp. Ain't fair.
okay, so we want to utilize our first attack against somebody who has some higher hit points. Okay, so Astarion is again into combat. This goblin is not into combat yet, but will be pretty quickly.
We'll do it my way.
Okay, so path is interrupted there. Target's outside of normal range from there. Okay, here we go.
Yes.
Wow, missed the 80%er. Nice. Love it. Okay, so we will move back here, and now we can start looking at how to get our other characters into this fight. And remember, this brawler here is not yet into the fight.
Should mind my step.
And you can see him, he's facing away from us right now, so there is an opportunity to get in here and enter combat while he's facing away. Because Tracker Slice is going to be our next target here, because her detection cone overlaps the stairwell. So we want to get rid of her. We'll see if this goblin turns around while I'm in the middle of moving up here. Hopefully he doesn't.
Life you took will not go unavenged, it seems.
Okay, so Astarion was no longer in combat there, which is interesting for Astarion because now he's going to be able to hide, stay out of this detection cone here.
Ah,
70% chance to hit,
Sunset can't come quickly enough.
and that ends that. Okay, just do some quick searching of them. Dan, can you sneak attack from the roof of the house onto them from... Yes, you certainly can. Whoa, camera freaked out a little bit there. Yeah, there are multiple ways to play all of these encounters. I try not to experiment too much at this stage of the game with how I play most of these, just because I'm not save scumming while I'm on stream. So if I know a way is going to work, I'm going to definitely utilize it as I go through the stream. And I know I've played these encounters so many times that for the most part I know how they're going to play out. Of course, no plan ever survives first contact with the enemy. But yeah, there are multiple ways to play these. So these two goblins I'm going to leave for now. Don't need to deal with them. And for here, I'm going to just quickly take everybody up onto the roof. Okay, now I'm going to break my group, and I'm going to bring my paladin back down here, not that way. Okay, I need to move the other people here off of blocking the ladder. So Shadowheart and Gale and Astarion. And now my paladin I can move back down here, right around the corner.
Time to press ahead.
Okay, and I'm going to keep my paladin out of the fight for a little bit here. And I'm going to, as usual, kick this off with Astarion. Astarion's going to be positioned over here, behind this wall. Now, we've talked about this before in the multiple different ways you can play this encounter here. You can talk to them and convince them to give you Lump's Warhorn, and then you can summon them to fights and try and convince them to stay with you, etc., etc. Again, as a paladin, you would want all three of them to die. Negotiating with Lump to get his Warhorn would probably break your oath, because they've been feasting on the villagers here. And letting them off, or forgiving them for that, is going to break your oath. So, if it's not an option for a paladin unless you're intending to be an oathbreaker, I'm already an oathbreaker and I still don't want to do it here. But I'm going to start this attack off with, as usual, with Astarion. If I look at my sneak attack damage, again, all in, I've got an 84% chance here. This one looks like Lump is playing a little weird here.
Tastes good.
Don't necessarily know why. Oh, it says targets out of range at that point. So if I move up here, I'm still out of range. The range things here are a little bit weird. I've got high ground, so that's extending my range, but still, for some reason, not going to let me go after Lump. I want to focus down Lump. That is absolutely what I want to do here. But because of how the range mechanics are playing here, it doesn't look like I'm going to. I can move a bit farther around here. I don't know if I've tried it from this exact location. Okay, so I can from here. So he came out of hiding. So I'll wait for the detection cones to go back where they were. And now start this off against Lump. Okay. So they are surprised. So now remember, with Astarion's we can go here with Assassinate Ambush. Any successful attack roll against a surprised creature is a critical hit. And I have advantage on that going forward. So this is, now that they are surprised, this next successful attack is going to be a crit. Because Lump has not gone yet, I have initiative from Assassinate. So this attack here is going to be a crit if it hits. Alright? And that means I'm going to be doubling the damage from the weapon, and you will see what happens with Sharpshooter. If I hit. There's still a 20% chance that I won't. So that's a 38. Okay, so what happens here is that I rolled 2d6 double, or 2d6, which is double the 1d6 for my hand crossbow. Added in the +1, that does not get doubled. Added in the dexterity modifier, that does not get doubled. I added in 2d6 for sneak attack damage, and then doubled the sneak attack damage. And then added in a flat +10 from Sharpshooter. Sharpshooter does not get doubled by a critical hit. That's important to remember. So for right now, that +10 damage is very, very useful because the characters have fairly low hit points. When you're dealing with a 666 hit point mob later on in the game, that additional 10 from Sharpshooter isn't going to be as powerful as it is in early game. Okay? That's the downside to taking Sharpshooter as a feat, is that it's very, very useful in the early game, but as the enemies scale up in hit points, it becomes much less useful as you go. Okay? But the spread out of enemies, having some enemies with 600 hit points and others with 40 in an encounter, it still can be useful. It's not like it's useless. It's just, it's going to decrease in potency as you level up and your enemies start getting bigger and bigger. So now I'm going to move around behind the wall over here and go into hiding. But before I do that, I'm going to enter some of my other characters into combat.
Surprised you spotted me.
Okay, and for this, I'm going to move Gale up here around the corner. Lump is now down to 10 hit points out of 67, all because of Astarion. Right? So that illustrates how deadly Astarion now is with his attacks. So if I go in with Magic Missile with Gale, I can cast it from out here. And if I cast it 3 on him, it's more than likely going to kill him. And it does. So Lump is done. Gale is in combat. Now I can take Astarion and I can put him in hiding.
Leave no trace.
You don't want Astarion in hiding and out of view as the only person in combat, because then the enemies may not detect you. And the combat will end, and if you've caused any damage, they will heal themselves back up. So always, before you end your turn with Astarion in hiding, make sure that you have somebody else in combat that is not in hiding. And now that Gale moved out here, I'm going to move him back around the wall so he's out of line of sight. Because otherwise, they can pick up objects down here, like barrels and things like that, and throw them at you. They've changed it a little bit, I guess, from early access. And now they've got a pathway that these ogres can utilize to get up here, and you're going to see that happen here in a second.
The mission has to come first.
So for Shadowheart, I'm going to do something very similar. I'm going to move her into position here. And there the detection cones were not rendering, and I was just about to stop her. And she went too far forward. The detection cones, I'm hitting shift, they are not rendering. Okay, that happens a lot. I get that comment a lot in my playthroughs. Just hold left shift and you'll see the detection cones. That is not always true. The game has rendering bugs with detection cones and darkness that it doesn't necessarily display them correctly all the time. And I got fooled by it there. There's the detection cone. It's finally rendered in. I was trying to move down here. Didn't see this little speck that came out here because the detection cone didn't render. And see, I'm holding it again, and it's not rendering. So it's one of those things where you have to kind of fool it into rendering the detection cone for you sometimes. So, and the way that you fool it, like right now, the detection cone is not rendering. If you put your mouse over one of the characters, that's how it can re-renders it. It's kind of like updating a sprite in Minecraft or something. When you regenerate the information for it, it regenerates the detection cone for it. So just be aware of that. If you get that type of non-rendering bug, that you can manually regenerate it by... Actually, yeah, there it is. It just took a little while to do it. Okay. So just be aware of that when you're going through your playthroughs. So I have a lot of spell economy here still left to me. And I think I'm definitely going to apply Hunter's Mark here.
Seems simple enough.
That just uses a bonus action. That's because of the bow that she's doing. So these are not monstrosity type enemies. These are ogres. So she's not going to get the additional bonus of advantage on her attacks with the longbow. But I don't necessarily think that I need to, at this point, really start focusing on damage as much. And I think that's because what I'm going to do here is focus on chalk. Okay, that was just a regular 11 points of damage. They're still surprised, remember.
What to do?
I'm actually I was going to hold my paladin's movement, but I'm actually not. And that's because I forgot. If I not chalk, I don't want to focus on chalk. So for Fank, his wisdom is incredibly low. It's a 7, so he's getting a -2 to his wisdom checks. What spell does he have that can immobilize an enemy and keep them immobilized while they have to make wisdom checks? And that would be Tasha's Hideous Laughter. So I've got a 65% chance for this to hit here.
All right then.
So that brought my paladin into combat. I was going to do that anyway. I was just going to wait for one of them to walk out this doorway and turn the corner and try and walk up here. And then I could bring my paladin in behind him. But this is just as good because chalk is the one I'm going to focus damage on. He's going to have to dash to get to me. And then I can initiate a whole new round of attacks after this. So for now, Astarion is done, so his turn's complete. Shadowheart is also done. Gale is also done, so Fank there's their surprise turn. And now for my turn here, I'm going to stay, because again, and I don't think the movement speed is bugged. Yeah, it's still showing 0 movement speed. So I don't know how far they can move, but this is 15 meters to get to me. I don't think he has that much movement speed. So I'm guessing he's going to have to dash to get to me, and that means he's not going to be able to attack, which is perfectly fine by me. Because by the time he gets to me, he's going to be dead. So I'm just going to use a cantrip to cause some damage here. And what's going to happen is Chalk is going to run over and try and shake Fank awake. So I want to kill Chalk before he can do that. That moves him much more into range for everybody who's up on the roof. Okay. So I'm going to end his turn, and now Astarion gets to go. And we have options with Astarion here. He's got 36 hit points left. Okay, so I can get him all the way out to there.
On my way.
I'm kind of going, nope, that's not what I wanted him to do. I wanted him to move there. Okay. I almost messed that up. If I'd have moved him here, he might not have had line of sight. But now he does. He's got advantage from hiding. He's still sharpshooter all in, so he should be able to sneak attack this. Okay, 27 points of damage. He's only got 9 left. Now I'm out of movement, but that's not a big deal because Chalk's going to be dead, and Fank is probably going to fail his wisdom saving throw.
I'm ready.
So again, here I've got Hunter's Mark, an 80% chance just for regular range damage. Okay, there's our Nat 1. Useful.
Allow me to.
And now Gale. Let's see if we can move him out here around the corner. He's got an 85% chance for this, but that's probably not going to kill him. So instead, I'm going to cast Magic Missile and guarantee the kill. I want him dead, because what can happen is if he starts going over and attacking these poles, these wooden beams, the wooden beams can knock the floor out, Astarion can fall and take fall damage. So I definitely wanted him dead before the end of the turn. So now I can move him back again around the corner, so just in case Fank does wake up. And he failed his saving throw. So now it's just free money here as far as getting damage done on him. So I'm going to jump in with my Paladin. And see, this is what I mean by the cracked support beams. They'll start hammering on those, it'll knock this entire floor out, and Astarion will take a bunch of fall damage. So that's why I definitely wanted to make sure that that was done. And I'm a little short on my movement speed to be able to make it in there for this. That's not necessarily a problem. I'm not too worried about it, because I think he's hopefully just going to keep sitting there on the ground and failing saving throws. So from here, I'm going to go into hiding. Get a sneak attack. Oh, that was not a sneak attack. Okay, it's going to get added in because I have it ask me. Okay, and that's going to wake him up.
With finesse.
So he passed his saving throw. He rolled... Succeeded on a saving throw. Okay, so he rolled an 18 on his saving throw. So you can't argue with that. He rolled really, really well. It is what it is.
Not now.
So I'm going to reapply Hunter's Mark here on Fank, just for the extra damage, and now I'm going to apply a level 2 Guiding Bolt to Fank. That got me bonus damage. So yeah, you rolled 5d6 for that damage roll. So now I can move her back out of the way so that he doesn't throw anything at her. And now Gale's turn. He's got 17 hit points left. So with Gale, I think at this point I can just do Scorching Ray. And he's got advantage on the attack because of Guiding Bolt. And that's it. So again, careful positioning, utilization of proper spells for crowd control, and proper utilization of your characters in specific orders to help cause more damage, cause that encounter to be completely trivial. There was nothing that made that difficult at all. Where are you guys going? Come over here to the ladder and come down, please. Just running in circles on the roof. Okay, and that's kind of the goal here behind my live streams, and I've explained this before, is that for those of you who don't have a deep understanding of Dungeons and Dragons and the tabletop, hopefully these can explain some of the mechanics here a little bit, and explain how the characters synergize with each other, and how that can make encounters a lot easier as you go. So we have the Diary of Lump. You can read this. Talks about the fact that he's in league with Dror Ragzlin, the goblin boss, and they paid him to come out here and do this. So they were bad guys. So as a paladin, you're not going to let that slide. Okay, now for out here, for the rest of this, I think what we're going to do is go finish off these two goblins. And that will get us into a spot where we are going to be ending the live stream, and we're going to end it just about in the same spot that we did the Bard playthrough, and how we're going to start off next week. So for now, gonna again move everybody up, toggle the group, and as usual, you're going to do that with all of the advantage that he has with his assassin traits. There's nobody else that you want to start combat with. There just isn't. You always want to be starting combat with Astarion, simply because of all the advantages that he has with his assassinate perks to be able to deal with this. So I'm actually going to move him up a little bit more, because this goblin's kind of around the corner.
Behavior has caused upset. Now a fight is unavoidable.
Okay, so I rolled before him. So it doesn't really matter if I'm in hiding now or not. I probably can move back just a little bit. But for my sneak attack, I have advantage because of Assassinate. He's not gone yet, so it doesn't matter if I'm in hiding or not. If I make it into hiding, all it does is give me 2 ways that it can roll initiative, and it doesn't really matter. So I'm just going to go ahead and make the attack here. And he missed his first 80%er. Nice. Okay, so I can actually move down here. And why does he not have the happy trait? Let's do this. Let's go back out here to somebody who's not in combat. I don't want to do that because I've only used 1 level 1 warlock spell slot.
Free for the taking.
Yeah, I don't want to. I would take a short rest, get his vampire bite back, and use it on this goblin. However, I've only utilized one of my Divine Smites out of this level 1 spell slot. So I want to use the second one before I take a short rest so I can maximize how many Divine Smites I'm using here. And I made a mistake with my first Divine Smite. I should have clicked on my Warlock spell slot and cast Divine Smite instead of using the attack option and letting it ask me. Because if it asks you, it's only going to ask you for the non-short rest replenishable version of your spell slots. So here, Divine Smite, see, it's going to ask you for it, but if you look at the bottom, it's using only the blue square level 1 spell slots. That's my my Paladin spell slots. I want to use the Warlock spell slots first, and the ask option under reactions doesn't give you an option at this point to utilize the Warlock spell slots first. That will change once you get a difference in level and your Warlock spells become level 2. Then it's going to ask you if you want a Divine Smite level 1 or Divine Smite level 2, and since the only level 2 spell slots you have are Warlock, it's going to use those first. But for now, if you want to utilize your Warlock spell slots first, you need to click here and use Divine Smite this way to guarantee that you're going to utilize the level 1 Warlock spell slot to use it. And that was a mistake I made on my first Warlock spell slot there. So for here, I think all we're going to do is kind of move myself into range here. Oh, that was not on top of that yet.
There is work to do.
See, he was not on top of that. I think there's a bug in that detection cone. How it's rendering. Because he was not in that detection cone when he walked up there. We'll see when I move Shadowheart over here if she gets detected. Yeah, see? That detection cone rendering, even though you can see it, is still completely bugged. So, it just doesn't make... Like I say, the detection cones are so iffy here. I'm trying not to waste spell slots on this one teeny little goblin here. I'm trying not to do it. Doesn't make any sense from an action economy standpoint to do it. So my paladin can just walk out here and slap him in the face. And that's all you need. Okay, Astarion did end up taking some damage, but again, not too worried about that. I believe I have a whole bunch of healing potions sitting over here. Yeah, I do. I've just never split these up.
Well, hello.
So Astarion can just drink a healing potion and be fine.
No time to rest.
Okay, now, there obviously are a lot of crates and everything to loot in here. But I'm not going to go through and waste the rest of your time here doing it. What I'm going to do is walk up here toward this area. And we'll start explaining what we're going to do to get ready for next week. And that is this area up here by the windmill that has all these goblins in it. Okay. Yeah, good luck, Philip. Like I say, it's not the whole village isn't meant to be super duper hard. This and Lump are probably the hardest encounters. This just because of the number of enemies that are here, and Lump just because of the physical damage that they can deal out if they get near you. But it's not meant to be an overly hard or, you know, super difficult type of encounter here. So what we're going to do is break our group, and we've kind of learned some of our lessons here a little bit from what we did in the Bard playthrough. And we're going to try and pre-position some of our characters in a way that they're going to be more useful. So you can see the detection cones are overlapping about half of this. So I'm going to try and get my Paladin into a spot where he's up on the roof here, but down here, and he's able to access this ladder and get up here on top of this. I'm not going to start off combat with my Paladin, but I want to put him in a spot where he's close and can get in damage without having to move a bunch to get there. And as for Astarion, Astarion is going to have an issue with his strength here, and I want to try here. And see if his jump is able to get him up here. It's not from here. Let's see if he's able to... He's not able to climb into the back of the wagon. So his options are pretty much what we talked about last time. And I would prefer not to have him kind of stuck with those options. So I'm going to bring him back here and see if I can get him from this area. Up here on this roof as well. Okay, so it looks like I can.
Deep gnome never flew so high.
Okay, they're not hostile right now, so if they knock you out of hiding, that's not a big deal. So what I'm going to do is initiate this by walking Astarion up here. And now that he's up here, I have some options of where I can position him up here on the high ground to initiate this combat. So, again, I don't care if he gets seen right now. Everybody else, them being down here, is perfectly fine. But we are not going to do that now. We have come to the end of the live stream. So, y'all are going to start out next week with this combat encounter right here. So we will jump right into combat. I know that's the thing that everybody likes. So you're going to hopefully see this work out a little bit better than it did last time, just because we've kind of learned our lessons with positioning and getting our characters into certain locations. I really like attacking from up here and doing that, but attacking from here is just as good. Here I have one way for them to get up to me up here, and if you cast your Cloud of Daggers down here, it can be just as useful as casting it in here and preventing them from coming down toward you this way. So I think we have a bunch of options for how we want to play this, and I think we're going to have a good start next week to what we want to do. So again, as I mentioned earlier, all of the support that all of you have shown throughout the past month, 6 weeks, has been just amazing. I can't thank you enough. But as I always do, I'd like to thank everyone for joining me today. Without your support, none of this would be possible. So This is Commander Jorval saying until next time, fare thee well.